Guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be doing another book/movie review over another one of Stephen King's works. I have already done this a few times on my channel. I've done it for Stephen King's The Shining, Pet Sematary, and Misery. And if you're interested in those, I will have those linked down below in my description bar so you can check those out. But how this normally works is I will do a really brief synopsis over the book, and then I will jump straight into spoilers for the movie, where I will be doing a comparison over the book and the movie and kind of pointing out some of the things that were different between the two. I will definitely leave like some kind of banner that will say spoilers, just in case you don't want to be spoiled, because I will be spoiling the heck out of both the book and the movie. Towards the end of the video, I will kind of go more into depth over my thoughts over the book, and then I will let you guys know whether I would prefer the book over the movie or both. And so we will go ahead and get started. So the book that we're going to be talking about today is going to be Stephen King's Cujo. And this primarily follows three main characters. So we have Donna, her husband Vic, and their 4-year-old son Tad. And then the star of the show, which is going to be Cujo, who is this huge Saint Bernard. And at the very beginning of the story, we find out that he has contracted the virus rabies. Kind of follow him as his body is being taken over by rabies. And at a certain point in the story, Donna and Tad have been trapped at Cujo's owner's house, and Cujo is basically trying to attack Donna and Tad as well as other people in the town. And that's pretty much what the story is about. And I honestly don't have any more to say about that. Just to give you some initial thoughts about the book, I thought it was fine. I thought it was okay. Definitely not one of my favorites that I have read out of Stephen King so far. So we'll just go ahead and jump right into the spoilers for the movie. So jumping right into the movie. So the book came out in 1981, and then the book came out a couple of years later in 1983. And then, like I said, for the book, the movie also focused on the three main characters. So we have Donna, that was played by Dee Wallace, and then we have Vic, who was played by Daniel Hugh Kelly, and then we had Tad, who was played by Danny Pintaro. Then some interesting things about Cujo that I found out, well, they were interesting to me, was that Cujo was actually played by, I think it was like 4 or 5 different Saint Bernards, and then they had like a Labrador mix that they had played Cujo, that they then dressed up in a costume, and then they even had a man play Cujo that was also dressed up in a costume, which I thought that was interesting, because I wish I would have known like which part that was at, because I don't know why I wanted to know that, but I just want to be able to pick that out. I just thought that was interesting. As far as like the movie and the book goes, I don't think that there were too many differences. I do feel like they left a lot of stuff out, but as far as what they put in, I don't think that it differentiated a lot between the movie and the book. So at the very beginning, just like the book, we find out that Cujo has contracted rabies. He contracts it the same way from the book to the movie. So he's chasing a rabbit. He ends up going to the rabbit hole. Inside that hole are some bats. He gets bitten by the bats. He contracts rabies. The only thing that's different is when he contracts the rabies, it's a different, like the time frame is different when Vic and his family is around Cujo when he has the rabies. So the owner of the dog is Joe Camber and his family, and Joe is like the town mechanic. People go to him to get their cars fixed for cheap. So in the book, Vic and his family ends up going to Joe's house to get Vic's car fixed. And then a year later, Cujo ends up contracting rabies. In the book, nothing happens. The rabies hasn't like really affected him at all, but you can definitely see like the bite mark on his nose. But we just know as a viewer that, you know, stuff is about to go down. That's the only different thing. So that happens, and then there's 2 really big things that happen that is discussed in the book that they do kind of talk about in the movie. And one of the things is the huge topic of the monster in Tad's closet. It's kind of glossed over in the movie, but it's a huge topic in the book. So in the book, there's this man, or this like serial killer, that had killed all these people. And it's like this tale that they use to like scare the children. Oh, don't be bad, or this serial killer is gonna come and find you and kill you. Well, Tad believes that something is in his closet, and he thinks that it's gonna come and get him. It's this whole thing throughout this book that something is in this man's closet. Even Donna feels like she has seen something in this closet. She feels like she has smelled weird things coming out of this closet. The door swings open at weird times in this closet, and things have been shifted around. At times, Vic thinks that he's seen things in this closet. The little boy is terrified of this closet. He even has his dad like write these monster words down, and has his dad read them every night because he thinks that something is in this closet trying to get him. And so it's a huge topic in this book. And so they kind of briefly mention it at the beginning of the story, where we see Tad and he's like running from the closet. He mentions it a little bit throughout the movie. It's not really a big deal, but it's a huge deal in the book with this dang on closet, okay? So, like I said, they mention it in the movie, but it's not that big of a deal like it is in the book. Another thing that's a huge deal in the book, they mention it in the movie, it's brought up in the movie, but some of the things are not quite the same like it is in the book. And that is going to be Donna's affair with Steve Kemp. So Donna ends up having this affair with this man by the name of Steve Kemp. I don't really understand the significance of this. Well, yes, I do. I understand why like it's important in the book. But again, it's something that's kind of glossed over in the movie. It's kind of like one of those things, either you're going to go for it in the movie or just leave it out. Like, if you're not going to take it there like it was in the book, then just don't do it. So she ends up having this affair. The dude is a douche that she has an affair with. And he's not a very nice man. I don't know what she saw in him in the first place, but he's not a very nice man. He gets really upset with her that she tries to end it, and he tries to assault her when she tries to end it. And we kind of see that same thing happen in the movie. In the book, her husband Vic has absolutely no idea until the man ends up sending Vic a letter. In the movie, we find out that Vic actually sees an interaction that Donna has with this man. And so he ends up finding out on his own that she's having an affair. And he ends up walking in on Donna and this man in his house after they've had like an argument, because this man has, I guess, fixed stuff in their house. I'm not exactly sure what role this man has in their lives, but he's like around at their house. That's like going on. She's having this affair, and like I said, it goes in depth in the book. Like, this affair is a huge part of the book, but it's kind of like glossed over in the movie. Some of the things aren't actually the same. How they interacted isn't really the same. We actually see her in bed with him in the movie. We don't see that in the book, so it's a little bit different. Still, I think it's glossed over in the movie, not so much in the book. And I'm bringing all that up because I'm going to come back to that affair in a minute, because it's a reason why I feel like that affair is an important part. But I'm going to come back to that in a second. So while all this is going on, in the book, they're also talking about Joe Camber, the town mechanic, the man that owns the dog. They're also talking about him and his family a lot. That's not really talked about that much in the movie. All we know in the movie is that you can see that he's sort of abusive to him and his wife. And his wife wants to take her son to visit her sister in Connecticut. And so he allows him to do that because she won the lottery. She won $5,000. Woo, yay for her. And they end up buying him some sort of contraption to help him fix cars, I guess. I don't know what the thing was. And he allows them to go. And so they're gone most of the movie, same as the book. And so he's left at home with this dog. We're going to come back to that too. In the book, they explain that whole situation between Joe and his wife and his son and why that's so significant and why she wanted to leave. I'm not really going to go into that because that really plays, I guess, no significance on anything else besides she just wanted to leave. In the little part that I'm going to explain towards the end. But so she's gone and he's left at home by himself. And so the book really goes into depth with these characters' lives that the movie just doesn't have time to do. While all this is happening, Cujo is becoming more and more rabid. Nobody seems to notice. He's just kind of going off by himself. You can kind of see him getting more and more aggravated. Like noises is really starting to irritate him. There are scenes where, you know, he's around Joe and his friends and they're loud. And you can see that every time they make a noise, like he's getting more and more frustrated. And so when the killings start to happen, they're exactly the same as they are in the book. They're the same as they are in the movie. So nothing too much is different there. So then we kind of like fast forward and Donna has to go get her car fixed. She decides that she's going to go to Joe's to go get her car fixed. That's when the infamous Donna and Tad get stuck in the car. They are stuck in the car because Cujo won't let them get out of the car. So they are trying to wait it out. It is also hot as hell and it's in the middle of the summertime. They have been stuck in the car for, in the book, it's like a day and a half, 2 days. I believe it's the same time frame in the movie. So they are in there trying to wait Cujo out. There's a point in the time where Donna tries to get out of the car because she is trying to somehow get into the house because they are literally stuck in the front yard of Joe's house because they think that Joe is there. He's not. And she gets attacked by Cujo. She gets bitten on the leg really bad. And Tad is having a terrible time. He's really dehydrated and he keeps convulsing and they're not handling this situation very well. This brings me back to the whole affair that happens. Okay, so like I said, they kind of glossed over in the movies. And the reason why it's only Donna and Tad and Vic is out of the picture at this point is because Vic had to go off out of town for work. Same thing that happened in the movies. But he ends up coming back because he can't get in touch with his wife and child. Understandable. Even though he's upset because at this point, right before he leaves, he finds out that she's had an affair. So he's upset, of course. But in the book, when he comes back, he is under the impression that they have been kidnapped by Steve, the guy she was having an affair with. And they believe, the police, the sheriff, everybody believes that they have been taken by Steve, the guy she had an affair with, because Steve has trashed their house, like literally trashed it. He trashed it in the movie too, but they believe in the book because they can't find her car. No one has heard or seen from her in the last few days. And they see a note that was left by Steve on some kind of board that he left. So they just assumed that they were kidnapped by him. None of that was like talked about or discussed in the movie. It was kind of like, yeah, he trashed the house. I believe he did it. But that was like the end of the conversation. No. In the book, it was this whole thing. Oh my gosh, we need to go look for him. I think he done stole my kids. He probably killed them and put them in a hole somewhere. It was like this whole situation, this whole thing. They didn't track this man down, then held him, interrogated him. It was this whole situation. It was chapters and chapters of them trying to track this man down and them trying to figure out what the heck didn't happen to Donna and Tad. Nope, we didn't get any of that in this movie. It was just kind of like Vic was out of town. He was trying to work. He made several phone calls. He couldn't reach them. So he decided to come home, came home, walked in the house. The house was all tore up. Oh, man, this must have happened because her dude that she was sleeping with must have been mad. So let me call the police. Oh, okay. That was it. We didn't get none of that extra stuff. So, yeah, like I said, glossed over in the movie. So then towards the end, it was a little different on how this whole movie like wrapped up. Okay, y'all ready? Let's get into it. Okay, in the movie, a sheriff does come out and they looking for Donna, and the sheriff comes out and sees the car, sees that they're in there. Cujo's like, nope, I'm gonna eat you, and attacks the sheriff. Donna's like, oh, this is my chance. I can try to make it to the house. She gets out, doesn't look too good for her, but she's like, I'm sick of this shit. I'm making it to that house. So she finds a bat. She decides that she's gonna beat him with a bat, beats Cujo with a bat, thinks he's dead. Are they really dead? No. So then she gets Tad, because Tad ain't looking too good. It looks like he dead to me. So then she grabs her son, gets to the house, tries to run cold water over him, wakes him up, does mouth to mouth on him. He wakes up, thinks everything's all good. Nope. Cujo jumps through the window, but lucky for her, she had grabbed the sheriff's gun and is able to shoot him. And then as soon as she walks out of the house, guess who shows up? Vic. He runs up to the house. They kiss. Movie's over. Literally, movie is over. Credits run. That's it. That's it. So then in the book, what happens is sheriff comes. He's trying to help him out. He ain't really helping nobody out because he gets attacked. He dies. Donna gets out. She is beating this dog with the bat. She actually kills the dog with the bat. Vic comes up, sees her with this bat, assesses the situation, figures out, oh Lord, they've been out here with this damn dog. This is what's been going on. Runs to the car to see if Tad is in there. Tad is in there. Fortunately, Tad is dead. Tad didn't make it. So they end up taking Donna to the hospital. Donna is distraught. She ends up having to get her medication because she did get bit by a rabid dog. So now she has to take all these shots so that she doesn't get rabies. So then they have to then tell Charity, who is Joe's wife, that he died because he did get eaten too. And so that's pretty much how that ends. We did get like a little recap of how Donna and Vic are like handling the situation after Tad died, and how they kind of are like both blaming themselves for the death of Tad, and how they both would have handled the situation differently. So it wrapped up a little bit differently. We weren't just hanging. So that was how that one ended. That's pretty much it. I feel like I said a lot about what happened in this movie, and a lot of what I said had absolutely nothing to do with Cujo, which would be the truth. Because if I had one complaint about a book about Cujo, was that there wasn't a lot of Cujo. I feel like if I'm going to get a book about a rabid dog, I want a book about a rabid dog. Even in the movie, the last maybe like half of the movie was about Cujo, but even then I still felt like the movie was slow. Like the action parts, I enjoyed them when we got them, but it still wasn't enough for me. I still wanted more, especially in this book. We got way too much background information about these characters. I did not need to know the ins and outs of this affair. I really didn't. At a certain point, I did like to know about the things that were going on in their marriage. At a certain point, Joe, the guy that owned Cujo, I did want to know about the things that were going on in their marriage and why she was so ready to like leave him and go visit her sister. I did kind of want to know those. But at a certain point, it just kind of like dragged the story down a little bit, and it just took away from what I was really here for, which was Cujo. Another thing that I did like about the story was the whole situation with like the closet. I thought it added like an extra creep factor to it. Not only were we supposed to get like this creepiness with Cujo, but then you had like this whole serial killer creepy guy in the closet thing. I thought that was cool in the beginning. I mean, it just kind of like took away from it when we started getting all this like background information. It kind of reminded me of the whole thing when I read Salem's Lot. That is not my favorite story by Stephen King. I felt like in that book as well, all I wanted to know was about the vampires, but all you wanted to tell me about was all the people in the town. I didn't want to know all that. That's how I felt here. I didn't want to know about all their personal information. I just wanted to know about this dog and him killing everybody. That's what I'm here for, but that's not really what I got. Also, too, if you really think about it, all of this could have been avoided with Cujo. Cujo probably would not have killed anybody if they would have just told Joe that the damn dog was rabid. But no, there were so many opportunities, well, not so many. There were several opportunities for somebody to just speak up and say, hey, the dog is rabid, but nobody said anything. So in the book, there were some delivery drivers that came over and saw that something wasn't quite right with the dog, but nobody said anything. They didn't say anything because they didn't like Joe. And so they were like, oh, well, we're just not going to say anything. So they didn't say anything. So then Brent, his son, he didn't say anything to Joe about the dog because he wanted to go out of town with his mother. And so he was afraid that if he said something to Joe about the dog being rabid, then Joe wouldn't let them go out of town. So he was like, no, I'm not going to say anything. He did say something to his mother, but even his mother was like, nah, we're not going to say nothing because if we say something to him, he's not going to let us go out of town. What? So again, that's the third person that could have said something to this man about this dog being rabid, yet nobody said anything to him. Even Gary, who was a neighbor, thought something was wrong with the dog and didn't say anything. And Gary was one of Joe's really good friends, and he had the opportunity. That's 4 people that had the opportunity to say something to Joe about this dog, and nobody said anything. Go figure. All of these deaths technically was like 3 or 4 people that died. But still, these people could have still been alive if somebody would have just said, hey, something's wrong with Cujo. But nobody said anything. So people died for no reason. As far as the book goes, I did have a couple of problems. Not even problems, I had some issues with some of the things that I saw in that book. One really big issue that I have with that is Stephen King's use of the N-word for absolutely no reason. Again, this is like the second book that I read from him where I felt like the N-word just shows up for absolutely no reason. It comes out of nowhere. He uses it for absolutely no reason. There was like a black character that was like a taxi driver or something, but even then, I don't understand why you would use the word, why it comes up in conversation, why these characters would just throw the word out there. I don't understand it. I have been warned that Stephen King does this. I'm not sure if it's just in his older works or if this is going to continue to happen, but at this point, I'm not a fan of it. So if somebody can let me know if it gets better or if is this what Stephen King does? Because I'm not here for it. I don't like it and I don't understand why it's being done. Another thing that I didn't like was his use of the word fat and how he used it to describe a character. He used it several times in the book as well. And at one point he used it several times in like the same sentence to describe a character. And I didn't really understand that either. Again, I don't know if it's the time period that he's writing these books. It's in the early 80s. I don't know if it's just because people aren't really calling it out at that time. I don't know what it is, but I didn't like it. As soon as I saw it, it kind of like took me out of the story. This was a book that I read on audiobook. If you are going to read this book, I would suggest listening to an audio because the lady that narrated this, I thought she did a fantastic job with bringing these characters to life. When I first started listening to it, I was a little hesitant because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to listen to this on audio, but she did a really good job. Besides that, when I heard the use of the word fat and the N-word, as soon as I heard it, I was like, I don't like that. And then when I heard it again and again, I wasn't a fan. I ended up rating this book a 3 stars. Overall, I thought it was okay. Definitely not one of my favorite Stephen King books. I wanted more of Cujo. I just wanted more, I guess, horror elements is what I'm going to call it. If I'm, like I said before, if I'm getting a book about a rabid dog, I want some scenes with a rabid dog. I want more killing. That's what I want. I just wanted more of that. Even in the movie, I thought the movie was fine. I had seen the movie years, so long ago that when I saw it the other day, it felt like it was the first time. That's how long ago I saw this movie. But I just kind of felt like I wanted more. Some of the stuff in there, it wasn't needed. Some of the stuff that they tried to translate from the book to the movie, I felt like if you wasn't gonna translate it all, then why even do a little bit of it? So that's just kind of how I felt. For this one, I don't even know which one I would prefer, because I was just kind of like, I was just meh over both of them. This is like one of those books that isn't really memorable for me. And I just really don't, besides the things that I pointed out, I just really don't have too much more to say about it. But those are my thoughts over the book and the movie Cujo. Like I said, the other book/movie reviews, I will have those linked down in my description bar. But that is all that I have for you guys. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.